right. So my question is, how has dating been for you during quarantine?
Dating, actually, I feel like I have been the most lively with dating thus in my whole adult life because actually it was you who put me on to all. Hey, I am Selena Trahan, and you are watching Happy Hour. This is a place where I get to connect with others, and you get to hear our voices paired with even happier experiences. This is a safe space for us to be transparent about love, life, and relationships, as we know it's not so black and white and easy peasy. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our first episode. I am so grateful to have my good friend Kai. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Kai Bush. I am a second grade teacher, and I live in Atlanta. I recently moved to Atlanta about a year ago. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
How do you
I think that self care is super important. So I've just tried to prioritize that as well, doing things for me, especially after work, because I work long days. And we always have to go like the extra mile. So I just try to set aside time to either walk away from my computer, watch a show that I like to decompress after work. I picked up a new hobby, which is skating. I used to skate
skating or
like back in the day, but now I want to learn how to do all the tricks and everything. So I just bought a pair of skates and I'm trying to do
okay?
that on the side as well.
Is it dating? Actually, I feel like I have been the most lively with dating thus in my whole adult life because actually it was you who put me on to all. It was you who was telling me about Hinge and Bumble, and I'm like, but just in that time, like last fall, I was not in the headspace. So as soon as quarantine kind of hit in March, I went home, came back, and immediately had the apps going. So I finally have been going on dates, getting to know people, seeing how people act, figuring out how I like to be treated, giving people a try.
I'm here for it.
And I'm
I'm here
like,
for
at
it.
this point, like, it's just taught me that if somebody really wants to be serious about me and what we got going on, like, they're really gonna have to go over and beyond to prove it because all the lackadaisical energy, like, I want to feel wanted. So through dating, yes, it gives me the attention and everything like that, but it's like I'd be happy if one person would be willing to make the investment and be like, you know what, I want you, baby. Like, you are the prize. I want you.
Yeah, trust the process and all. Because sometimes when you're in the midst of a situation, you think that it's a lot worse than it is. But then once you make it through it or overcome it, you can look back and say, wow, okay, I could have handled that differently. So, hindsight is always 2020. So being able to like sit back and just trust the process and trust your
Right.
season because everybody goes through growing pains, everybody goes through heartbreak, but there's a reason for all of it. And only time will tell why that was that you went through that. One of my friends told me that she was like, every blessing comes with a sprinkle of what the fuck. And I truly believe it. Like, because you'll get something and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, like I just prayed for this. And then all of a sudden, boom, something happens and you just have to like learn to cope with it and keep moving. So.
Yeah. And I
Transparency. Would you be able to handle the transparency of blindingly luminous true colors you never knew existed? It's easily just the bitter truth. Reality is here smacking you in the head, causing deep-rooted confusion. It has you questioning, how could something so perfect be crushingly toxic? The master plan was mapped out, but my how things shift when life hits. What is one supposed to do? There is no such thing as quitting, so chin up and stay in the fight. Do it, even if it scares you, even if you have to toss your pride to the side, even if you feel like you've already failed, even if embarrassment is lurking in your subconscious. Be transparent about how you feel.
It gives a great definition of exactly what transparency is too, because some people throw the term around but don't really know like it's a level of vulnerability that's associated with being transparent and knowing like you're really putting your feelings out there and like letting it be known that could in turn, like, that could hurt you. Like, and I feel like sometimes that's a scary thing for people, like being transparent and vulnerable. I feel like they go hand in hand. So it's almost as if like the transparency aspect for some might be hard simply because they don't want to be vulnerable.
Right.
So a time in which like I haven't lacked transparency was like more so with my best friends. Like I literally was talking to one of my friends yesterday and I was like, yeah, I don't really feel like I'm in a good place right now. And I was like, and I'm sorry that it took so long for me to tell you that. But I was like,
you back from not telling, because that's supposed to be like the person you're closest to. What was the hesitation?
So I think the hesitation was that I didn't want to be an emotional burden on anybody. Like if you're in a good place, I don't want to be the person to bring you down and be like, dang, like, but my best friend.
Here I am.
Exactly. So I didn't want that to weigh in on her. So I find myself always doing that. But once I opened up, she was like, I'll always be there for you as a listening ear, like to pray for you, to be there for you. Like, but like you have to talk to people about this.
Right.
And I was like, and it came to the realization like, okay, it's just me being in my head thinking that I'm a emotional burden more so than like me actually reaching out, because of course they care. They want me to be in a good spot. So that's the time in which I wasn't necessarily transparent, or it came to a certain point in which.
Well, thinking about love, life, and relationships, I know a lot of people can get thrown off when a relationship goes sour, or they go through a bad breakup, or friendships don't work out. What advice do you give to those women?
My advice would be focus on yourself. So after a heartbreak, like, of course, like some people tend to like jump into something else. Like what was the quote? Like the best way to get over somebody is to get somebody else. Not necessarily. You're toxic at this point because you're not you're not good. So like, because emotionally you're not there. Like you're not in a good space. So for you to try to jump in with somebody else in the midst of all of these feelings and you're not over that person, it's a recipe for disaster. Right. So I think it's important to take time to yourself and really reflect on the relationship in the means of moving forward as well, because life does not stop. Take time to yourself to revalue, like, what do I like to do? Because sometimes people lose themselves in relationships, in which is like, oh damn, like me and that person, we always did this together.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, but what do I like to do? Take yourself on dates, like really love on yourself, because in those times, like everybody is supposed to have a single season, but it's the times in which like you learn about yourself, you learn what you like, you don't like.
Right.
Because this one girl, she was a little bit older than me in college. She was like, how are you going to know what you like if you've never dated yourself?
I've never heard that. Break that down for us. Okay.
So like, you never know what you like if you never dated yourself. So like say the only way you would go on a date or try something new is based on like going with somebody else. Right. Like why wouldn't you like, I'm in my, like, okay, if they have a new restaurant, like, dang, I've been really meaning to try that new restaurant, but you depend on somebody else to go and you end up never going. So it's like, what if you liked it? It was like, oh my goodness, I went to that restaurant by myself. I sat at the bar. It was a vibe. Like
it was cute.
You know what I'm saying? Like you could explore things on your own and then be like, okay, yeah, I like this. Okay, I went there. I did not like this. Going to the movies by yourself, like all of the things, like just loving on yourself and being intentional with the time you spend with yourself so that when that person does come, you're whole. Because that's what's super important. Like you don't want to give your soulmate or the person that you're meant to be with any half of you because you're not healed.
Right.
You literally just need to take time to work on yourself and then really reflect on like, what could I have done better? If there's anything. And if there isn't anything, then think about that person. What qualities do I want in my next person that this person did not have?
I love that. I love it. And write it down. That's what I've learned is just to write it down at this point. So that way you can manifest on it, whether it be the person you want, how you want to be treated, prayers. Like I know I've gone on Pinterest to specifically find prayers that might feed into my soul differently because you only can express what you know. And if you haven't been exposed to different things, you're not even going to know the wording or things to pray about that you haven't even, experienced. So that's one thing I've done for sure. And I find it helpful. and just opening my mouth and speaking. Because like I said, I'll go in a hermit mode and nobody knows what the hell is going on with me. So in this book, this is like my first crack at like fully being transparent about my dealings with love, heartbreak, and getting through life. Like despite everything I wrote, like I'm still here. Depression is a big thing that people go through, whether it's light or very, very heavy. And I think it's something that we should talk about more. At least that's my goal, is to, talk to people. Like I didn't know you felt like that, Kai. So now I'm like, let me call my girl and see what's going on. Yes. Well, I appreciate you coming and I love having you. And you are welcome to come back so we can chat it up. And I just want to say, I pray that you have a phenomenal 2020 and that any burdens, any just doubts you have in yourself, that you are able to find peace and thrive within the next year and, beyond. So I love you. I appreciate you.
This was fun.
I know. We're going to have to do it again.